Hi and welcome to another episode of What's Cooking. Chef Ismail Arbee back to cook you a storm. Well, today we're going to be making a beef Wellington. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking a fillet steak. I'm going to be wrapping it in some puff pastry, thereafter baking it in the oven. I'm going to be showing you how to prepare a stock. Now you get variations of stock. So you're going to get a vegetable stock, a beef stock, a chicken stock, absolutely anything you want. So I'm just going to show you today a simple beef stock, right, which is really easy. So let me run you through our ingredients, right? Obviously we're going to need some oil, salt and pepper to taste, a bit of paprika, some bay leaf, some garlic, butter, some onion. As you can see with the onion, I've got it on with the skin, right? I've got some celery, some carrots, some Cajun spice, a bit of flour, some leek, obviously some fresh thyme, some fresh rosemary, not forgetting our fillet steak, a bit of lemon juice, some egg, a bit of beef offcuts. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this later, and obviously some puff pastry. Okay, so I'm going to start off first with our fillet steak. Now, the trick that I always showed you guys, and I hope you guys remember this one, is massaging your flavors into your beef. Otherwise, you're not going to get any flavor whatsoever. So, I'm just going to take my rosemary. Just going to take off all our stems. And you're actually using the rosemary leaves on its own. Just a little bit more. Brilliant. And some fresh thyme. And all I'm going to do with the thyme is I'm just going to crush it up. Because if you smell it right now, you're not going to get a nice flavor coming through, a nice smell coming through. You want to actually just break it just a little bit. We actually call it bruising it. And you're going to get that flavors extracting through really nicely. So just put off my thyme. And my rosemary, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to crush it up. I don't want it too fine, so just to crush up. Alright, I've got a bit of bay leaf in there as well, a bit of Cajun spice. Now just to add that Mediterranean feel running through the dish. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in. A bit of olive oil. Just to drizzle it and make it stick properly. Bit of black pepper, brilliant. Just a tinge of salt. You don't want to add too much of salt because your Cajun spice does have a high salt content, so just a little bit more salt. Brilliant. And some paprika just to add a little bit of flavor and the color. Brilliant. Okay, and then I'm just going to crush my bay leaves up, and we're going to start the massaging process. So, whoopsie, I actually forgot my little bit of lemon juice. Brilliant. Okay, and I'm just going to start this process. Alright, you want to do this, you want to try and leave it overnight if possible, so you're getting as much flavor as you can running through the dish. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this aside and allow it to marinate for a bit. Right, and then I'm going to start with your stock. So all I did there was I've got a high pot. Just going to add a bit of oil. Then I'm just going to light that up. I'm just going to let my oil heat up. Okay, then as you can see, I've got your onion with the skin. The reason I leave the skin on is because I want all the flavor, and a lot of the flavor is actually in the skin itself. So as you can see, I just rough chopped it. I haven't fine chopped it. That goes in. My celery goes in. So a very simple and easy method to remember your ingredients that go in here is, we actually call it clock. So it's celery, leek, onions, carrots. C-L-O-C. That's all the veggies that need to go into your stock. Carrots, I've rough chopped them. I've left the skin on as well. Leek. Take some thyme, just a quick crush. Break it up. What I actually prefer doing is cooking off your veggies just to get them basically sealed off, and so you're going to get a lot more flavor running through. A bit of the black peppercorns. That cook up nicely. Alright, so this is your base to your vegetable stock. Now, if you want to add a variation to it, you can add your chicken bones, beef bones. I'm just going to take my offcuts of steak that I do have. I'm going to pop it in there so it's actually making that beef stock. You can get those flavors coming through really nicely. Okay, so as you can see, it is cooking really nicely. Right, just a quick toss, and then I'm going to add some water inside. Now we're going to add the water in, and we're going to allow the water to reduce. So brilliant. Let's give that a quick stir. Right, ideally you want to leave a stock to reduce for about 2 to 3 hours, right? Just like I say, when I say reduce, I don't mean boil or vigorous boil, I mean slow simmer. So you want to extract all the flavors from your vegetables, from your beef stock, from your bay leaves, the garlic, all to come into this flavored water. Okay, it's looking awesome. Then we're going to run over to our puff pastry here. So all I did was your normal store puff pastry. Let's take it a bit of flour, right? Obviously I don't want it sticking all over the place, and I'm just going to roll it out. Brilliant. Okay, so you don't want to go too thick. You want to go quite, not too thick, not too thin. You're looking for about maybe a 2 centimeter or less, 1.5 centimeter. Pastry, I'm just rolling it out nicely. I'm going to get my pan on, and I want to start sealing off my fillet steak. Right, the reason I'm sealing it off is because I want to keep all those flavors in. So all you're doing when I say sealing it off is basically browning your steak and keeping the flavors in. I'm just going to add a bit of butter, some oil. I'm just going to melt that up. Carry on with my pastry here. Brilliant. As you can see, it's about 1.5 centimeters all around. Now my stock is going really nicely. Obviously you're going to cook this for a lot longer. I'm just going to cook it for about half an hour, and as you can see, I've got a little bit in my pot. So the more stock you take, the longer it's going to take you to basically reduce it down. Okay, for my steak, I'm just going to crush this. A bit of garlic, sprig or 2 of rosemary, some thyme, and now I'm just going to pop in my rosemary. Okay, on the other hand, I've got some mashed potatoes to go with this dish. So all I've done was chop them up, a little bit of salt in my water, and allowed it to boil. So once it's boiling through and it's about 3/4 way cooked, another trick is all you do is cover with the lid and leave it on low heat just for it to start basically softening through. You're gonna get a much better mashed potato, and it's gonna be a lot easier to smash it up. So that is on. I'm just going to take my beef fillet, and that is the sizzling sound you want to hear. You want to hear it sizzle, so you need that higher heat to basically seal it off. And I'm frying it in butter as well because I want to add that nutty flavor through the steak itself. As you can see, it's just starting to turn color and starting to get a little bit brown. That is the look that we're going for. That is how you're basically sealing it off. Okay, so now it depends as well on how you prefer eating your steak. Now, the methods are, there's various methods. You get your rare, your medium rare. A lot of people mistaken steak and they want to eat it well done. The problem with that is it's really dry and stringy. So if you are a steak lover or you want to eat soft steak, you're going to go to a medium well. There's no blood on the inside, yet it's still slightly pink, but I promise you it is absolutely soft and tender. Take a spoon. Now I want to incorporate that butter flavor into it. So all I'm going to do is take your oil, your butter from your pan and just drizzle it over your steak. It keeps your steak nice and moist and still cooking it at the same time, adding in that butter flavor. Brilliant. It is looking and smelling absolutely divine. I wish you guys could smell this at home. This stock is going off really nice. And my mashed potatoes, I'm just bringing them up to the boil again and bring them up to that steaming phase. Cook my side. Right, now a thick chunk like this will take some time to prepare medium well. So you want to cook it to a medium state in the pan. And thereafter, once it goes into the oven, you're going to be touching medium well. So if you want it well done, but this is fillet steak, so you don't want to overcook it, and it is really soft. You can use other steaks as well, but the best to use is your fillet. It is the most softest and tendest steak around. So all I'm going to do here is, as I removed it off, I'm just going to allow it to rest for a few minutes. Alright, but taking this butter and pouring it over. Alright, brilliant. So I'm just going to allow that to rest. For the mere fact is that obviously it is quite moist. So once you add it to your puff pastry, you're going to make your puff pastry really soggy, and that's not that is not what you're looking for. So brilliant. Stock is coming out nice. Okay, so as you can see, our steak has rested for a bit. That is exactly what we want. So I'm just going to take it, put it onto our puff pastry. Now you want to work quite fast with this, so just a quick wrap around. Brilliant. Okay, and all I'm doing is I'm cupping my hands and I'm closing it in. Okay, so I get my knife. Then all I'm doing is cutting off the edges. Alright, you want to take your fingers and thereafter just crimp it so we seal that gap completely. Alright, and at the bottom as well, just a quick crimp. And the same on this side. Okay, and then just neaten them up nicely. Okay, a bit of oil so our pastry doesn't stick. Okay, now Wellington goes in. I'm just gonna brush it with a bit of egg. So crack us one egg up. Just gonna whisk it. Okay, so my simple easy method is just a fork and beat it up nicely. Just get my brush. I'm just gonna brush some egg onto it. Now, just so we get that nice golden color. Alright, you just want to do all the sides. Just gonna take a bit off. Alright, you'll see the results a bit later of the thyme going on top. Alright, brilliant. I'm just sticking it in there so it's nice and firm. And this is going to go into your oven at 180 degrees. Just going to allow that to boil. While I'm still here, I am going to show you how to make the sauce to go with it. So as you can see, all the leftovers from that steak, I'm going to add it back into my pan, right? Because this is where all your flavor is. And thereafter, I'm just going to take a little bit of stock. Right, it has reduced by about a quarter. Just take a spoon. All I'm doing is taking from the top. What I'm doing is I'm deglazing your pan. So I'm getting all the flavors from your pan as well where your beef was, just to incorporate more flavor into the dish or into the gravy. So you don't want to take any of the veggies because your veggies won't have any flavor at the moment. All the flavor is absorbed into the water. Just going to mix this up, stir it around. Right, the secret in actually cooking and the level that we take it to is incorporating as much flavor as possible and not throwing away the flavor. Now, a lot of people would have taken this pan and just washed it. As chefs, we keep the pan, we're keeping the flavors in the pan, and we incorporate more flavors going in. So I'm just going to take a bit of flour into my, now a normal, and I'm sure everyone knows this already, is how to thicken up a sauce. It's just a little bit of flour and water mixed. So I'm going to show you how to make that paste. So it's just a little bit of flour, a bit of water, and I'm just going to mix it up nicely. Right, just till it forms like a paste or a runny paste. Just grab my whisk. Okay, so I want to mix this up more. Add a bit more water to it, just to make it a bit more of a runny consistency. You don't want it too thick, otherwise you're going to get flour lumps in your sauce itself. Okay, so as you can see, the consistency, it's not too thick, it's not too thin, it is a runny texture. Just going to add a bit of this. And you want to whisk as fast as possible. Okay, I'm just going to allow that to come to the boil. Our mashed potatoes, how are they? brilliant. Our potatoes are nice and soft. I'm just going to strain this water out. Okay, so another trick, I've just left a little bit of water in, and I'm going to put it back on the stove just to get that water out and allow my potatoes to steam up nicely. Our gravy is smelling absolutely brilliant. So our mashed potatoes are here. As you can see, I left a bit of water and then I started steaming it through. So I'm just going to mash it up now. Let me just move this out the way. Get my masher. Just a little bit of butter in it, and I'm just going to mash it through. I'll put a salt and pepper. I'm going to start off with my pepper. Bit of salt, and I'm just going to mash it through. By steaming it, you actually allow it to be softer and a lot easier to mash. Okay, so I'm just going to mash it through. As you can see, our sauce is reducing quite nicely. Just quick mash. Yeah, a little bit of elbow grease and you sort it. You're probably wondering why I'm doing it in my pot is because I'm trying to keep the heat on. So when we are plating, you're basically getting hot mash and not just, we don't have to re-warm it. Let's set this aside. Okay, grab my silicone gloves. As you can see, it's browned up amazingly. So you want to leave it in for about maybe 15 to 20 minutes, just to allow it to, and we're not going to cut it straight, we're going to allow it to sit for a bit. Brilliant. So now we're going to get to the plating. I'm just going to take my board, a bit of mash. I'm just going to drizzle just a little bit there. A strainer for our sauce and a spatula. You want to be really careful, it is still hot. Just going to scrape it out. Brilliant. So obviously you can cut this into smaller pieces, you can make smaller ones, not an issue, but this is just a simple idea. Just going to take a bit more butter and pop it on there, and my gravy. I'm just going to take a bit of strainer, and I'm just going to strain it and allow my sauce to drizzle over. That is smelling absolutely amazing. Okay, I'm just going to garnish it a bit. Just a bit of thyme. And just a small sprig of rosemary. Okay, brilliant. Okay, and there you go, ladies and gentlemen, beef Wellington. Beef, fillet beef, wrapped in puff pastry, baked in the oven, served with a simple mash. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode. We'll see you again soon.